Hi, I'm Nathan Jackson. I'm a strength conditioning coach and nutritionist for golfers. Today we're in the golf fitness dungeon. It's not always pretty, but it's where we get after it and we get shit done. Now today I want to take you through a golf workout using just dumbbells. Now hopefully you have a couple different sets of dumbbells, different weights, a light, a medium, and a heavy. If you don't and you only have one set, hopefully it's moderately heavy, in which case it'll be just fine. For the light stuff, I would just not use dumbbells, just use your hands. If you have something you can grab, even like just a shoe, just to sometimes hold something kind of gives you a feel for things. And if you need heavy stuff and you don't have access to it, it's just a mindset shift. Don't worry, this is not going to be the be-all, end-all workout for you forever. It's just, again, if you're traveling, this is going to be a great workout for you. If you have maybe a home gym, but it's not quite decked out and you're kind of lost on what to do, this would be a great option for you as well to kind of get you started and thinking about some of the things that maybe you could add to your work, to your gymnasium at home to make it a little bit better. So yeah, we're going to go through that full body workout here for golfers using a couple sets of dumbbells. We'll go through a warm-up here quickly and then get right into it. So let's get to it. All right, gang, before we get into our warm-up here, one thing I forgot to mention is that this workout is for golfers who are basically beginner to intermediate lifters. And I'll try and give you some variations as we go through this, ways that you can make it a little bit easier and ways you can make it a little bit more difficult to kind of get that both ends of the spectrum between beginner and intermediate. Okay, so first thing here, we're going to go through a warm-up. Now, it's important to warm up. Hopefully I don't have to tell you this, but before any kind of strength training, as well as before your practice and your play for golf. And so if you guys don't have a warm-up, check out the caption below. I'm going to throw a bunch of resources down there, free resources for you guys that you can pick up and take advantage of. But a good warm-up for both practice and play as well as for training should kind of check off a number of boxes. One is going to be elevate your body temperature. 2 is going to be mobilize your joints. 3 is going to be activate your muscles. And the 4th thing a good warm-up does is basically stimulate your nervous system. It's one thing I find golfers don't do a great job of. Well, they don't do a great job warming up, period. But even those who maybe do, they don't stimulate the nervous system before they go hit the first tee. So take advantage of that. Okay, so in terms of our workout here, we're going to check off a number of those boxes. The first thing that we're going to do here is, actually, before we even do that, I want to go over how to create a good stack of thorax over pelvis, because I'm going to mention it throughout, and I want to make sure you guys know how to do this. So because we're golfers, this is not really going to pertain to those who are power lifters or any other sport, any other non-rotary sport, I should say. Any kind of rotary sport, at least the ones I can think of right now, we want to have lots of range of motion in our body, and the best way to do that, or to activate, or to access, I should say, all the mobility that you currently possess, is making sure you have a good stack of thorax on top of pelvis. If you're an Olympic lifter and you need to catch a barbell kind of in that extended posture, this is not for you, because you need to be in that extended posture. That posture creates stability in certain areas to help you, catch the barbell and in your deep squat type thing and stand up or whatever, Olympic lift that you're doing. But for golfers, we want to be able to rotate. We still want to be strong, but we want to be able to rotate. So we're going to give up a little bit of that tension and strength in some areas, just to make sure we maintain our mobility. So what I mean by stacking the thorax on top of pelvis, let's just start with the pelvis. So if you guys are standing up, kind of like shoot your tailbone behind you and let your belt buckle drop down to the ground. We kind of call this stripper pose, okay? It's not really PC, but okay, we're here. If your hips were like a can of paint and you did this, the paint would spill at the front, okay? What I want to do is do that as far as you can, almost to where it gets uncomfortable, just so you know what your end range is. Okay, for me, this is kind of uncomfortable. And then what I want to do is do the opposite. Use your core. I want you to pull your belt buckle up towards your chin. And so the canister now, the paint in the canister would spill out the back. Okay, so now I have a kind of a flat back here, and it would feel like the paint is kind of falling out the back here. And again, go to end range. Almost to the point where you're squeezing your glutes, okay, your core. And just kind of go back and forth between those two, and just find what neutral is for you. And then from there, just take a big breath in, okay? And without losing any height, okay? So I don't want you to exhale and crunch down. What I want you to do is just exhale. And just try to, as you exhale naturally, let your rib cage fall down towards your belt buckle. But again, don't lose any height. You're not trying to force it down there. Okay, and that's gonna give you a nice kind of stack of thorax on pelvis. Easier said than done for everything, but easier when you're doing standing drills. When you're doing any kind of bent over drill, you're still maintaining that good stack. You're just hinging, and let's say it's a row or a deadlift of some sort. And then as we get into a push-up here in a second, even though you're in a horizontal position, you still want to maintain that good stack of thorax on top of pelvis. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, drop them down below. Okay, so let's get into this warm-up here. We're going to hinge down. We're going to walk it out into a push-up position, okay? So from here, what I want to do is when you go into your push-up, at this point in time, my shoulder blades are kind of wrapped around my rib cage. It's really key that your shoulder blades move. And I want your upper arm to go on a 45-degree angle here, out to the side, not 90 degrees out that way, okay? So good stack of thorax and pelvis. So my back's maybe a little bit flatter there. And then from here, go down into your push-up, exhale up, okay? And what I want you to do now is take your right hand and reach towards your left foot. And when you do that, you're gonna basically bend your left knee and try to drive your right heel to the ground. So you get a stretch in the right calf and you're reaching towards this left foot, the left toe. You're getting good rotation with the torso, good rotation with the hips as well. Come back to your push-up position. As you go down your push-up, let the shoulder blades come together towards the spine. As you come up, let the shoulder blades wrap around the rib cage, and then from here, push down with the left heel, bend the right knee, reach towards that right foot. You're trying to drive your tailbone up to the ceiling. Okay, walk it back up. All the sets and reps will be in the caption, by the way. Okay, second drill. Grabbing a dumbbell, light to moderate. We're gonna go through a retro step. It's kind of like a kickstand deadlift. So I'm gonna show you from the side first. Okay, so from here, what I'm gonna do, start out in this kind of like split stance position, okay? When you go in the split stance, your hips will start to get some rotation, working on hip mobility here. I'm gonna have the weight in the same hand, the leg is forward. And what I want you to do is shoot that right hip back, straight back. Let the dumbbell kind of go down towards the right toe. Get some rotation in the torso, okay? And just hinge as far back as you can. And as soon as you can't hinge any further, that's as far as you need to go. Now I can get my dumbbell further down, but I didn't hinge anymore. So I don't want that. So you're only going as far down as far as you can hinge back. Okay. Exhale up, bring the hips forward, switch hands, switch feet. Okay. Get 90% of that weight into that trail foot, shoot the left hip back, reach down, hinge back, and then come back up. And we're just gonna alternate back and forth here. Now the key here is making sure you have good on the foot that's back, your weight is distributed evenly just below the big toe, just below the pinky, and that heel. So we call that a tripod foot. One way you guys can kind of mess this up a little bit, I see kind of butchered a little bit in the gym, is hip checking. So pretend if the weight is here in my left hand and I have my right foot back and I'm gonna be reaching down here, pretend there's a wall on that left side and you can't bust through the wall. And so what I mean by that is, like I said, you wanna drive that right hip straight back. So you kind of stretch all the tissue in that right glute, right hip capsule, right hamstring. Okay, but I see a lot of people, again, pretend there's a wall there, a lot of people will rotate through that, okay? And then come back up. What I want you to do, again, pretend there's a wall, drive straight back instead. And then come up, straight back. Okay, that's your retro step. Great drill. Final drill here for warm-up, Pogos. This is gonna be a little bit more of a power, stimulate the nervous system. And I like these drills, especially for my older clientele. And when I say older, I mean anybody over 40, really. I'm including myself in this because I'm 47, I'm an ex-athlete. A lot of my ex-athlete teammates, they fall in this category as well. They don't work out as much as I do, so their tissues don't have the same absorption capabilities as mine. And I'm sure you guys probably have, know somebody similar. They're playing basketball or whatever, for me it's basketball, and maybe they're doing some backpedaling, and all of a sudden there's a turnover or something, and they want to switch directions. They plant, and when they go, they tear their Achilles or their calf. And that's just because they haven't kept up with basketball movements. Their tissue can't handle that amount of force being put into the ground and then coming out of it in the opposite direction right away. And so Pogos, even though we don't do the same kind of movements in basketball in golf, we do put force into the ground. some of us better than others. And we want to do that so we get force back and so we hit the ball further. And so this is a great way to, again, from a warm-up perspective, elevate your body temperature, get some kind of nervous system action going, but at the same time, creating some stiffness in the lower body. So with Pogos, okay, we're gonna start up on your toes, heels off the ground, and when you go through your Pogo, I wanna create lots of stiffness in the lower body. So when you go through your Pogo, and it's just gonna look like this, okay? You're just springing up off the ground, and notice how my hands are like jumping up or bouncing up as I leave the ground. The key here is, watch my heels. When you land, I don't want you to like bring those heels down to the ground. I want you to stay stiff in the calf, the Achilles, okay? Ankle joint. Stay stiff and bounce up off the ground. So you guys can just do, if you're not comfortable with the version I'm gonna give you, you guys can just do the standing Pogo. You can do the Pogo I just showed you in travel, or you can do this Pogo that I'm gonna give you. We're gonna do 2 Pogos and then go into a drop split squat. So 1, 2, boom, okay? Staying tall, get down, get some depth, get some of the glute, hamstring, and quad tissue activated, okay? Trying to stop on a dime and just kind of come back up. 1, 2, other side. 1, 2, boom. 1, 2, boom, okay? That concludes our warm-up. We'll get into the workout here in just a sec. Okay, our first drill here for our workout is gonna be our explosive power drill. And what we're gonna do here is a 2 dumbbell jump squat. So I got 2 light dumbbells. These are only 20 pounds here. And we don't wanna go very heavy with these. We just want a little extra weight. You can, if you haven't done these before, you can just go body weight. You don't need to do any dumbbells. Just do some jumps, put your hands on your hips. That's totally fine, okay? So what I wanna do here is start good athletic stance, good stack of thorax on top of pelvis like we went through in our warm-up. And then from here, shoulders slightly pulled back, athletic stance, kind of on the balls of your feet, okay? I'm gonna basically load by squatting down, loading my glutes, my hamstrings. Let me just get here. And if you are in the basement, be careful of your ceiling, okay? So I got a nice spot here in between 2 beams. I'm gonna load and I'm just gonna drive up, jump as high as I can, and then try to land softly as well. I don't want you landing on your heels. That's gonna send kind of a shock up your body, not good for your lower back. I want you to land on the balls of your feet and absorb that, the weight, okay? So again, we're here. Squat down, drive up, and then land as softly as you can, okay? Moving into our second drill here is gonna be half front squats. So let me just make a dumbbell change. We're gonna go a little bit heavier. Okay, so we got a little heavier dumbbells here. We're gonna get into an athletic stance, so feet about hip width to shoulder width apart. Go ahead and flare your feet out a little bit. I don't mind with that. If you need wedges for this in order to get down a little bit lower, you can. Now we are only doing partial squats here, so you probably don't need them. But if you feel like you don't have a good range of motion, or you feel like when you squat, you're kind of squatting forward, then go ahead and elevate your heels on books or wedges or a 2x4, okay? So here we go. We're gonna clean these dumbbells up to shoulders, okay? Nice and tall. Back into our good stack of thorax on top of pelvis. And then from here, we're gonna squat down halfway. So again, just a partial squat. This is ideal, again, for in-season golf training, as well as for power phases. It's mimicking the same angle of our hips in our golf swing. Okay, so we're here, squat down halfway, and I want you to try to explode up. Not jump, but explode back up as fast as you can to kind of tap into those type 2 muscle fibers. So we're here, big breath in, explode up. Okay, so if that's uncomfortable for you, a lot of you may not have the shoulder mobility to do so. You can go into more of a goblet position. So again, go heavy as you can. Goblet is basically just holding your weight here. Shoulders are pulled back, elbows are off your body, upper arms are off your body. We're back into that good stack of thorax on pelvis. And then from here, breath in, and come up. So again, if I was to do this one, I would go get a heavier weight. Explode up, okay? Guys, that is your strength portion or strength exercise. Let me go re-rack the weights and we'll get into the next drill. All right, for the next drill, we're gonna go through a dumbbell contralateral lateral squat here. So basically contralateral just means if I'm stepping out with my left foot and kind of loading into this left hip, the weight is gonna be contralaterally loaded. It's gonna be in the opposite arm or opposite hand. This is a nice, without going into too much detail, it does kind of help bias hip internal rotation. for hip internal rotation for golf is extremely important, especially in our lead leg. So anyway, let's get into our stance here. Good stack of thorax and pelvis as always. We're going to step out here, okay? And you're going to have to kind of play with your stance. Okay, I'm a pretty tall dude. I need to go pretty wide. What I want to do here is push into the ground. Okay, good tripod foot again. So weight behind the big toe, behind the pinky toe, and the heel, but a little bit of bias on the inside of the foot, just to kind of bring this knee in and activate the adductor. Again, a very important part of the golf swing, and that doesn't get trained enough in golf fitness. Okay, and then from here, drive that foot down and forward to kind of push this left hip back, very similar to the golf swing. We're going to shift our weight and hinge down and bringing this weight to the inside of this foot. Now, what we're trying to do here is kind of, you see I'm moving my trail foot here to get a better stance. What I want to do here is stack the big toe, the knee, the hip crease, the sternum, and even the nose here. So you create some rotation in the torso. Okay, so again, you're kind of biasing the inside of the foot. You'll feel the adductor kick on. If you lose the adductor, your knee's probably going to spill out. Okay, and now in the golf swing, we know that it's kind of swaying off the ball, for me as a lefty, or sliding towards your target potentially. Okay, so loading into this left glute, left hip complex, hamstrings, quads, and I'm trying to get kind of like big toe, knee, crease of hip, sternum and nose in line with one another. And from here I'm going to drive up, okay, left hip comes forward, and go back in for our second repetition, drive into the ground, push forward, so the hip goes back, boom, and we're just going to go back and forth here. So down slow, and then drive up. You're also going to probably get a stretch on the inside of the adductor or inside of the leg on the opposite leg as well here, okay? And as you kind of go through it, you notice how I just kind of stepped out a little bit more. Now that I kind of know what I'm doing, get a good feel for it. I can really get deep into this. And again, drive up. Down slow, drive up fast. We're going to superset this. So once you go set reps on your left side, reps on your right side, grab a light dumbbell. And again, if you don't have a light dumbbell, just use your hand or a shoe, something, a book even, whatever you have available to you. Okay, we're going to plant. We're going to take our right foot, if you have the balance to do so, elevate it onto a bench or a chair of some sort. If you don't have access to that, or you can't maintain your stability and it's very frustrating, totally fine. Just go ahead into a split stance here with majority of the weight on that front foot. So the back toe is just kind of a kickstand, keeping you up for balance. Okay, so I'm here, stepping out. Most of my weight's on that lead side, good stack of thorax on pelvis. Gonna bring the weight up to my chest. Gonna kind of squat down, or hinge forward, I should say, more so than squat down. Hinge forward just a little bit. And then from here, again, good balanced foot here, tripod foot, slight bias on the inside of the foot, again, to kick on the adductor. Keep the knee in line with the toe. And then from here, breath in, exhale. I'm going to rotate the torso. So pull that, in my case, my left shoulder back as I reach forward and try to get a straight arm, okay? This might be a little bit heavy, actually. And back in. Okay, so notice how I spilled out on my left foot here. So again, I'm going to try and find my big toe, bias the inside of that foot, and get some rotation. Trying to keep this lower body as stable as possible as you're rotating your upper body and moving your limbs as well. Great for stability in your golf swing. All right, we're back. We got two dumbbells again, a little bit different weights. We're gonna do a row and a press. We're always a little bit stronger rowing than we are pressing. So I have about 10 more pounds here rowing than I do with the pressing dumbbell. So again, if you have multiple dumbbells, awesome. If you don't, hopefully you have a weight that you can both press and row. So this first one is going to be a single arm kickstand row here. So going to get kind of in this we call it a kickstand position, very similar to our retro step earlier on in our warm up. And then from here, majority of our weight's on our lead leg. Good stack of thorax and pelvis. We're going to basically hinge back. So even though I'm hinging, my weight's still 95%, 95% on this front foot. Again, good tripod foot. I always like to bias the big toe inside of the foot just to kind of kick on a little bit of adductor. And then from here, I'm gonna let my shoulder blade wrap around my torso or my rib cage. So I'm kind of reaching down to the ground. My free hand is up by my chest. I'm gonna breathe in. I'm gonna exhale and pull the right arm up to chest and reach down with my left arm. Okay, so I'm gonna row and reach. That's going to create some rotation with the torso. Because of the stance we're in, we've already created some rotation with our hips. And as we breathe and our diaphragm moves up and down, as we breathe in, the diaphragm moves down, we're pushing our guts into like the bowl of our pelvis. And because we're in that rotated position, being in the split stance, we're getting some good hip mobility there as well. Okay, and as we breathe and we row, the weight's on one arm, we're getting some rotation with our torso. So again, we're strength training as well as mobilizing at the same time. I always like to kill two birds, one stone. Okay, so hinge, good stack of thorax on pelvis. With any kind of rowing and pressing, we want to make sure the shoulder blade is always moving, wrapped around the rib cage and moving back and forth. We don't want to pin it back and just row without it moving. We want to let it wrap around so you get a little bit of reach there. You don't want to excessively reach, but just let the shoulder blade do its thing, okay? So we're here, majority of the weight's on that lead side, breathe in. And when you're rowing, just be careful. You always want to try and make sure that, again, if you're focusing on your shoulder blade, everything should be okay. But just in case, it gets a little bit sloppy, just make sure you have a nice tall chest. So as you're pulling that shoulder blade back, this shoulder is staying back as well. And if you can, instead of like thinking you're rowing up straight up and down, kind of row maybe on an angle so it kind of gets into your right hip a little bit. It'd be kind of like a little bit of a lazy U in a way. But for this variation of a row, it's okay if you do happen to go straight up and down. But the key here is the shoulder. As you're rowing, just kind of like pull that chest back so you're in this position here, just so you're not dumping forward, okay? So I don't want to see a row like this. I want to see it, boom, nice strong position. Okay, we got our single arm row. We're gonna pop down. Now, if you have access to a bench, go ahead and use it. If not, you can use the floor. You're gonna drive the dumbbell up with two hands. Okay, we're here. Good stack of thorax on pelvis, so big breath in. Exhale, let the ribs naturally fall to belt buckle. You should probably feel your lower back kind of kiss the ground a little bit. So again, I don't want any powerlifting arching. That's okay for powerlifting. That's not what we want for golfers. We want a little bit of mobility here, okay? This shoulder is going to be down away from the ear, and just like we did with the row, the shoulder blade, in this case, because I'm reaching up to the ceiling, is wrapped around my rib cage right now. As I come down, I'm going to think about kind of pulling my shoulder blade towards my spine, just to kind of lock it in and pack the shoulder, but it's going to move in and out of that position, okay? So we're here, both hands on the dumbbell. Just like our push-up, we want to come down on a 45 and then drive back up. All right, here we are. This hand's going to come down. I'm going to breathe in as we come down with the dumbbell. Reach up with my left arm. So as I reach, I'm getting that torso rotation. Exhale, drive up. And again, that shoulder blade's coming off the ground a little bit, or at least the inside border's touching, but everything else is coming up, and we're getting torso rotation to the left. Okay, so again, for both of these, we're gonna go slow on the eccentric, okay, and then drive up quickly to, again, try to tap into those type 2 fibers. With the row, it's basically down slow and then up fast, okay? And then finally here we have our last drill. So we're gonna superset those two in case I didn't mention that. We have our last drill here. It's gonna be a plank row. So we're just gonna get into a plank position, or a hand plank position, good stack of thorax on pelvis when you're in here. So good stack. The wider your feet are, the easier this will be, okay? So you can kind of play with that. Good stack of pelvis. Don't let your lower back sag, and obviously I don't want you up here like that either. And we're just gonna take this dumbbell, once you're in that good stack position, shoulders away from the ears, shoulder blades wrapped around the rib cage, good strong position. We're gonna drag it across. Key here is do this without rotating the hips back and forth. And there you have it, a full golf workout using just dumbbells. If you enjoyed this workout or you have any questions about the workout itself, go ahead and comment down below. I'd be happy to get back to you. And don't forget, in the caption, I threw down the structure of the workout, the sets, the reps, the rest time, along with a few other free resources for you. And I really appreciate if you like this video and you find the sweet spot of that subscribe button. And until next time, just remember, you gotta get strong if you wanna play long.